Hey, Ben.
All right.
Okay. Hey, Ben, that's an improvement, but that's not the mask they're talking about.
What?
Mr. Hank.
We're live. Wise Talk, and it's been a while since we've had a chance to sit down due to just summertime and everything, everybody's schedule. But excited to be back for a little back and forth with everybody. So we have Manico64 over in the UK. We got Alan Myers out in the San Diego area. We got Mr. Bitcoin Ben in the Midwest. And so how's everybody doing this afternoon, gentlemen?
Wonderful.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, doing well. Nice to be back on the Wise Guys.
Yes, sir. So
Wise.
we were about to.
I love how he says that.
The Wise Guy,
like almost whispers at the Wise Guy.
No. Maybe I'll get closer to the mic.
It's okay. Okay, so let's talk about the good guys and the bad guys narrative out there. And so I think that originated from the whole QAnon crowd or the QAnon message in general that leads a portion of the population believe that there's an orchestrated event that will work out for our good in the end. And so with that being the case, let's talk about that a little bit. Do you guys think there are good guys and bad guys behind the scenes that's at war with each other or something like that? I don't know.
Yes. How about I'll actually go the pro. There are a group of good guys, and whoever else wants to argue the other side of that, we'll go back and forth.
Okay.
Yes, QAnon is real. All right, it is a military operation partnered with the NSA that originated in 2017, late in 2017. And basically what they are doing is they're laying out a reverse rollout operation. What that is whenever you plan a military operation, you don't plan it from when you land your helicopter. You plan it from the execution of the event that you're trying to actually do, and you plan backwards from that event. So if to put it in general terms, if you were going from point A to point B, you would originate your actual map at point B and then work your way back. And that's how they're rolling this out. And the reason that I know what I'm saying is true is there have been several, actually 35 Q groups where Trump has mimicked or has actually done. Would you mute him? He
Yeah.
know how to do this.
He doesn't even know it either.
Press your mute button. It's
yeah, I don't know what it is. It's I don't know. It's something at the desk or something. Allie, hey, Allie, you're fidgeting with something. That's how the microphone
is. It's where Trump, who is actually known as Q plus, whenever the message is actually signed off by Q plus, that is Trump's words. right? And Trump has signed off with a certain slogan
Mhm.
or whatever. And then within a couple of seconds, Trump on Twitter will write the exact same thing and tweet it.
So with that information there, you did at least. I sounds like a pretty good case there. So here's my only thing is with the whole QAnon situation is that I think it also can be utilized as a narrative but an agenda to further divide us as well, because you can also create division behind the whole idea that some people believe, some people do not believe, all in the same direction of change. And so you can have those hanging on the hope because of some entity, military grade, all the things you just laid out, that is countering the negative and the evil of behind everything. And then you actually have those that are the problem with society, the principalities and powers that are trying to orchestrate that new next world order. And so I just find it hard to believe that there's good and bad guys in Congress working behind the scenes towards a objective that will bring peace and harmony to humanity as opposed to automatic evil. And that's why I just see much of a war going on between a good and bad narrative behind the scenes.
All right, let me ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
In the time of Jesus Christ, how many people knew that Jesus Christ was around at that time?
How many people?
Yeah.
I don't know the exact amount, other than from a biblical standpoint, we were given information saying that those who were spiritually, their eyes were open beforehand, which were few rather.
All right. Do you think that those people who believed in Jesus Christ coming and that he would actually be born, and at this time with kings and all that showing up with the gifts, and that was all told earlier?
Mm-hmm. It's foretold biblical prophecy well before. Yeah.
Right. That's, and I'm not saying Trump is Jesus or by any means at all. What I am saying is that's the tool that's being utilized. When you're going to expose an evil, and I assume that you guys agree there are good people and there are bad people.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right. Power attracts the bad people. The good people usually reject authority. Like George Washington did not want to be king. He did not want to really be president. But once in a while, and we've had this happen in our country before, you actually get a group of people who know what's going on. This is a military operation. The military and the NSA know that this has been going on.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by this is weapons running, underage sex rings,
yeah,
drugs, narcotics, all of a lot of like blackmail of CEOs, blackmail of legislators,
mm-hmm.
blackmail of Supreme Justices, and
presidents as well.
Absolutely.
Maybe the current president as well, because he says one thing and he does something else. I mean, he says is against the globalists, but he goes to Davos the last 2 years to meet with them. Some people would argue, well, he has to keep his enemies close. What about the vaccine he wants to bring in? He wants to do it through warp speed. He said that.
But hey,
why does he keep Fauci and Birx, working for him? He could sack them.
And he absolutely could.
Why doesn't he, though?
Let me explain. Number one, if you're going to drain the swamp, you have to get into it to actually find the plug. All right. And number two, this is 100 years of corruption, progressive corruption. The reason he brings out Fauci, the reason he brings out all of these evil, deep players is so that the American people and the world know who these people are. If Trump just would have came in office and said, there's a lot of bad people and we're going to start arresting them, nobody would have believed anything. You have to show the people. You have to let them see the corruption. And the only way you do that is the only way you find out you got cockroaches is switching on the light. Right? And the only way you switch on the light in a global progressive eugenics movement.
What do you mean by progressive? Sorry, I don't get that.
Progressivism is an ideology that originates out of communism. You would actually know them as the Fabian Socialist.
Oh yeah, Fabian Society, yeah. But
Right.
I would say progressive sounds a little more Democrat, but I would say this goes on both party lines, though.
Romney is a progressive Republican.
Yeah, so are all the other, Bushes and everyone else.
Yep, they're all progressives.
They're all Demopublicans.
No.
They're all the same. Democrats and Republicans are just as bad. They've indebted the whole United States.
leave off Republican.
No,
leave off.
No, I wouldn't.
No.
But
let me finish my sentence. Don't think Republican. Don't think Democrat. Think progressive. That's who they are. They should think of the NFL, not the teams.
Yeah.
All right. That's where the issue lays, is we have a 120-year progressive movement that has been infiltrating the American government and global structure since prior to World War I. All right.
Yeah, they did it through the tax-free foundations.
Yes.
Yeah, and Norman Dodd, he did an interview in the early 80s with G. Edward Griffin, who wrote The Creature from Jekyll Island. And all these tax-free foundations, exempt foundations, they're just a cover. So like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, Ford Foundation, they're just like progressive institutions.
Yeah, the Fabian Socialist split in about 1889. You had the revolutionaries, which were the communist revolutionaries that led, like Lenin, and they wanted a war of revolution, where the progressives, which include like Bernard Shaw, they went the progressive route, which was infiltrate and slowly manipulate the society over years of progressive legislation to end up at the goals of the planks of
communism.
So,
yeah, and you know, the symbol of the Fabians or progressives is the turtle, and the turtle is really slow but surely. And you know who's a member of the Fabian Society? Tony Blair.
Yep, absolutely. And
yeah.
And am I still muted?
No, you're good to go, Alan.
Oh, okay. The Fabian Society is a British socialist organization whose purpose is to advance the principles of democratic socialism via gradualist and reformist effort in democracies, I hate that word, rather than by revolutionary overthrow.
Bingo. Now,
it's been around since January 4, 1884. And here's its purpose. This is, by the way, from the Society's website. I didn't memorize this. Okay. To promote greater equality of power, wealth, and opportunity, the value of collective action and public service, an accountable, tolerant, and active democracy, citizenship, liberty, and human rights, sustainable development, and multilateral international cooperation. Doesn't that sound like just a wonderful beehive? Let's all just hum.
Sounds like you know who also is behind the London School of Economics, which I've read about. Paul Volcker. I read his book he wrote a couple of years ago. He went there. It was founded by the Fabians, the London School of Economics, and that's another institution that is full of the central bankers, the Keynesians, and hopefully Trump will go after the Fed, but not go after the Fed asking them to cut rates and do negative. I guess he's doing that just to try to make it for people to see how crazy the Fed is, I guess.
Yes.
Like you're saying.
What if Trump doesn't win, though? What if Trump doesn't win this next election? Is the QAnon stuff dead?
No.
That would be a big blow, I think, if he doesn't win.
It moves.
Biden's not going to. He's not going to do anything that would disrupt his legacy and family and everything else of the globalist agenda. So,
actually, Mike, do me a favor and Google a term, Fabian window.
All right.
Put it up on the screen. The window.
While he's looking about that, I got a question. Does anybody think? Because the name was brought up. Does anybody think that Biden will actually make it to November?
No.
I don't mean in a physical health way. I mean in a mental health way.
Looking at the guy right now, the way he speaks, I don't even understand why they've got him running as the candidate for the Democratic Party, but you look at this in the mainstream media, even Fox News, they're coming out with polls and saying that he's ahead in the polls. I don't know what the game is. And so the world is so crazy right now that, I wouldn't put it past them selecting him as president.
Yeah.
Yep. Click on one of the pictures of that window. All right.
There's Tony Blair.
All right.
Yeah.
That right there.
Fabian window at the London School of Economics. There you go. Yep. Tony Blair with it.
That window right there explains everything we're going through right now. The guy in the red is a guy. His name is Bernard Shaw. All right. What they're doing is they're heating up the world so they can shape it into the image And as it says along the lower part of the window, they are shaping the world closer to the heart's desire. Now, the band Rush wrote a song about this window. It's actually called Closer to the Heart. Now, Mike, do me a favor. Look up the lyrics of Closer to the Heart by Rush.
All right, give me 1 second.
Is that the Canadian band, Rush?
No, I think they're out of London.
Oh, I see.
So, yeah, and what they're doing right now is, all right, now let's
Lyrics.
Yep. Read the lyrics off.
Rush to closer to the lyrics. Rush, lyrics, closer to the lyrics. Let me see. Interesting. This is okay. So we got intro, verse 1.
All right. Now read those lyrics.
All right, intro. And the men who hold high places must be the ones who start to mold a new reality closer to the heart. Closer to the heart. Verse 1. The blacksmith and the artist reflected in their art. They forgive they forge their creativity closer to the heart. Yes, it's closer to the heart. Philosophers and plowmen each must know their part to sow a new mentality close to the heart. Is close to the heart. Verse 3 says, you can be the captain and I will draw the chart, sailing into destiny, close to the heart, close to the heart.
Right. What they're explaining there is the agenda of the progressive movement, that each person in the world must know their part. They must be educated into their part of the globalist plan. All right. If you read to the right, they might actually talk about it.
So it just says, Close to the Heart is a single by Rush, released in 1977 from the album A Farewell to Kings. It was first Rush song to have a external co-writer, Peter Talbot, a friend of drummer and lyricist Neil Peart.
All right, it's this. There were a group of actual bands in the 60s and 70s called progressive rock. Right, and that's the whole progressive movement into the popular music. Now, the Beatles wrote a response to that song. It was called Revolution. Now, Google the lyrics to the Beatles song Revolution.
Just while he Googles that, what do you think it means? Because closer to the heart sounds like a good thing. So what do you actually mean? What do you think they mean by that, closer to the heart?
Right. Closer to the heart is a term used by Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto. It was the argument of Karl Marx that the heart of man should override the want of religion,
and also reason, maybe as well. No,
right. So in a response to that song, the John Lennon wrote this song. So you say you want a revolution. Well, we all want to change the world, blah, 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 blah. Now, if you scroll up or down, whichever knows it, all right here.
You say you can change the Constitution. Well, we all want to change your head. You tell me it's institution. You better free your mind instead. But if you go carrying pictures of Chairman Mao, you ain't going to make it with anyone anyhow. Don't you know it's going to be all right?
Yeah, right. This song what made him write this song was the progressive movement had approached him on doing a concert, and the concert profits were to go to the Planned Parenthood and all of these like big like leftist movements. And a large part of it was to go to the Weather Underground. Now, do you guys know who the Weather Underground is?
It's Marxist, isn't it? Like Chicago and Hillary Clinton.
Yes, Hillary Clinton and another guy named William Ayers.
Yeah, Bill Ayers. Yeah, I've heard that one.
Who is a close friend of Barack Obama's.
Yeah.
All right. Now, he rejected playing in that concert. Well, the guy who wound up killing John Lennon was an active member of the Weather Underground.
Okay, so watch this. So, because apart from like these lyrics and stuff right here, that's not my particular genre, so I'd never go on that deep to even to go there. But it looks like there's been some tug of war for decades now as to the future of how this planet shapes out, and it looks like 2020 is the year that things are starting to unwind, where we're able to have this type of talk about these lyrics and whatnot, and the fight behind the scenes. So, based upon the information there, I can see how there's people who are not excited about going towards that one world agenda.
I'll actually say one thing, then I'll let you guys talk. What is going on? The Hillary Clinton emails is the equivalent of what Nixon was looking for at Watergate. Does anybody know what Richard Nixon was looking for at the Watergate Hotel?
Well, I've heard there's a lot of speculation. One thing I heard is that they had documents that would expose him to Dallas in 1963. There's so many things. Is that
Trump? Yes, that's absolutely. Hillary Clinton's emails contain all of the information off of a network of BlackBerries that would resolve an update in a group of servers. They all had BlackBerries, right? And every email exchanged would be held on those group of servers. Well, Hillary Clinton had one, and the Chinese government had some, and this was a whole network. So the Hillary Clinton emails actually tie in everything. That's why we have COVID. You want to know why we got COVID? Because of this. Because they cannot let Trump let this out. And Trump was close friends with Richard Nixon. A lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people don't know that Trump and Trump's grandfather and dad were actually very, especially his grandfather and his uncle, were very intimate people with very high level people in what is called the John Birch Society.
John Birch, yeah.
Yep. All right. Now, as Trump rolls this out, it isn't Trump that's important. It's a group that's behind him that's called the America First Group. The America First Group is led by a group of generals that Bill Clinton fired and tried to have assassinated in the mid-1990s. They were all on one aircraft, and Bill Clinton tried to have it brought down. Well, luckily, they found out about it and none of them got on the plane. But that, my friends, is who Q is. It is the group of the generals in 1995 that were originally slated to be eliminated because they were the last remnants of the Nixon era generals.
All right, so watch this. So based on the information there, it sounds like Trump has to win or else. And my thing is, if this information, which you look like you've done some heavy research into this information, because a lot of this stuff is obviously stuff where people are familiar with, then it is pivotal that Trump does not win. Therefore, between now and that time, I would imagine, hell, that just either further reassures the false flag event or whatever else that has to happen so that Trump is not able to fulfill that plan of execution to unravel the emails and Maxwell and all that other stuff. So I think
or a market meltdown.
Yeah, market meltdown, something, because if that is the case, that will basically shake up the world for sure. Therefore, hell, that's more stuff that we should really be concerned with. But so let's transition a little bit. Damn, okay. Not sure where to go from there. So between now and November, so it makes it seem like November, presidential election wise, is of extreme importance if Trump is going to be able to execute any of those plans. That looks like that might be what, you know, some want to believe. If it doesn't happen, then what? Because they win.
Well, my turn.
Go ahead, Alan.
If we went back to the Fabian Society, what they're about, the songs, Ben, thank you for all that information. It was very informative. Thank you. Think about it. Okay. What's that word? Closer to the heart. That just sounds absolutely warm and fuzzy. How can anybody be against getting closer to the heart? Except for, what does it mean? Now, closer to the heart doesn't mean to me, mom's going to hold me tighter. No, this is a way of saying, well, we're going to go with feelings and emotions, not logic, not reason, not facts. And of course, we all want everyone to have absolutely exactly the same thing because we're all equal, which means, of course, this is a situation that has to be manufactured. It isn't going to occur in nature. One example. Now, Michael, you have a basketball history.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you ever take the court hoping for a tie?
No, it's not
okay.
possible.
Well, see, that's because you are not closer to the heart. See, you want to win. Your team wants to win.
Mm-hmm.
What about how those people on the other team are going to feel if they lose? Aren't they going to feel bad? Well, we can't have that in the world. We can't have good, honest competition. We have to manufacture the outcome. And there's only one way to manufacture the outcome. Control everything. This is at the heart of one world government. This is, to me, this is at the heart of one world order. And we're going to make sure everyone is equal. Well, except for the top, who's got to pull the strings, of course.
Orchestrating this, yeah.
And that's the oligarchy, for lack of a better term. And then you have the people who support the oligarchs, and they're okay. Everybody else, you're down in the sewer. But you're equal until we decide that, well, we're going to privilege one group over another. We're going to protect one group over another. And then we're going to pit one group against the other groups, and we're going to create this social unrest. So, see, it screams, we need an enforcer because people cannot control themselves. Well, when you're on the spectrum of emotion and feelings and not fact, logic, reason, well, yeah, this is not by accident. This is by plan.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, the people who would execute such an inhuman, driven belief of total ultimate control is totally sick. So what between now and election day, for me, me personally, and what people need to do, you need to get involved. You need to get educated. You need to know when you're getting, my term is MSM, mainstream media spew machine. You got to know when you're getting spewed on, because it's not facts, it's not logic, it's not reason, and it's about control. And one of the easiest ways to control human beings is with fear. And there is a tremendous amount of fear out there. And then those that comply with that, they get to break the law. But if you actually, it was in the news, I think it was in St. Louis, man and woman, both attorneys, they had somebody broke in the gate in their gated community, almost flatten it, marching down the street, threatening, or number one, they broke the gate. Come on. And this man and wife, they feared for their lives. The guy came out with a rifle. I don't think he really pointed at anybody, but he let them know he had it. And the upshot was that rifle has apparently now been confiscated, because this guy is standing on his porch. Now, he and his wife have done extremely well. It looks like one heck of a home. He's standing on his porch telling people, get the HE double hockey sticks out of here. You don't belong here. And they took his rifle. So if you decide to loot, burn, steal, destroy, you get a free pass. In fact, if you want to take 6 city blocks, take them. Mm-hmm. You want to protect your own home? Well, I'm sorry, we're going to have to prevent you from doing that, because somehow that's against the law.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? That husband and wife,
yes,
they're actually Democrats. And
not for long.
Right. Word is they're now leaning pro-Trump.
Crazy. So it's please go ahead.
Yeah, just a view here from outside the U.S. About the elections, and maybe listening to what Ben and you guys are saying, Trump could be the real thing, could be trying to get rid of the swamp. And I won't argue with that. And even though I still want to see proof, and I realize it's difficult to get rid of a power that's been there for 100 years or so. Mm. But one thing I would say, if Trump were to win and the Republicans were to win, also one of the houses of Congress, I think America is so divided, because it's not everyone that thinks like this about Trump, like Ben does. And so whoever wins, I think it's still going to be mayhem out there, a lot of social unrest, because I don't see either side being happy, whoever wins.
All right. There's no way to make everybody happy, because we've been groomed into the left-right paradigm of especially in the African American community, especially everybody I know primarily is Democratic just by default. And so they are already anti-Trump, regardless of policies or whatever. They may not like Biden, but they'll vote for Biden just because it's not Trump. So they actually have a dislike or a hate towards someone they don't know, but then because they are so because of just cultural differences, and in fact we've been brainwashed on many different fronts, that's going to be a reason why people disagree with each other from here on out. So
that's why they're rolling out the arrest of the child herders. That's why the arrest of Epstein and the arrest of this woman Maxwell, that is and you don't have to believe me now, but watch and see how this plays out. Republican or Democrat, the one thing we all agree on is you don't hurt children.
No, watch this. That's true, but watch this. At the same time, when there's going to be a large amount of job losses and business closures and people starving or hungry and not able to survive and have that sense of worth from working, I doubt people will truly pay attention to that. All the stuff you're referring to. So that situation there, the pedophilia, all that stuff right there is beyond humane in and of itself. But yet, if you can't feed yourself, you don't have a job, I doubt you really care about all that stuff that needs to take place behind the scenes.
That's why they're going to make it rain money. That's why Trump is going to send out checks. The American people they're going to receive checks from now till the election.
It's not real money, though. It's just,
it's
currency.
The thing is, to Ben's point, or to everybody's point, and that is, and I'm not picking on you, Michael, but
it's all good.
Okay, no. Detroit's an interesting city. When they win the World Series, there's a riot. When they lose the World Series, there's a riot. Regardless of who wins this election, let's say the president wins. There is, again, I'm not casting a prediction, and I'm definitely not hoping for this. But there is the potential that so many people are so already lit that this goes down for the president, they're going to go haywire. To create disruption, to create damage, on and on and on. If Biden were to win, number one would be, okay, who actually is going to become president because he can't do the job. But
Obama behind the scenes?
Who knows? But the potential for chaos is, we won. Now we can really get away with what we want to do. It's frightening to think what's coming. It's the economic reality of shutting down economies, whether it's local, state, national, all because this virus is out there, and you have to do that because otherwise we'll all be dead. That's not playing out in Sweden. They are the most open, non-lockdown society out there. And if you look, again, I don't minimize any of the deaths. If you look at the number of deaths in reference to their total population and that of the U.S., it is, last I looked, 0.014% more in Sweden than in the U.S.
Yeah, and just add something. There's a guy. He did some. He's like a mathematician, statistician. He's based in the UK. His YouTube channel is called Peerless Reads, like reading, Peerless Read. And Andrew Mather is his name, and he's done all government numbers, WHO numbers, and he said this is like a Western virus. It's hit New York specifically because of Wall Street. It's hit London, the UK, and Brussels. Belgium is the worst country in terms of the mortality rate above normal. It's Belgium. And then you go to the rest of the world, like Asia, even China, and the mortality is like 1 or 2% above normal mortality. And it doesn't warrant closing economy. So I think it's just a cover for them to bring down the, because Wall Street was already in trouble last September in the repo market. So it's just a cover to bail out the bankers again. And in the meantime, they're going to give some crumbs to the public with these checks that Trump and Congress is writing.
To the numbers, again, I track this a little bit. The the average daily death total worldwide allegedly connected to CV. And we know that these numbers are not necessarily accurate, because if you can spell CV right before you die, that's what goes on your death certificate. It's around 2,400 per day. In 2018, a group tracked deaths by auto accident worldwide, average 3,700 a day.
Yeah.
Anybody scream no more cars? No. To me, the frightening thing is how is the stock market so high for so long, given that our economy is shutting down. The biggest companies out there have massive amounts of corporate debt, bond debt, usually around 10-year maturities. They pay interest until they have to pay it off. They're not operating. They're running out of money. So the Fed's action. Well, and now we've got more unpayable debt being generated by the U.S. government to fund these stimuluses. And people don't even think about what 1 trillion is, let alone now over 26 trillion. So what's coming? What coming is? Can I give one last thing and I'll be quiet? I saw and not plugging anybody, but if anybody cares, it was on Tucker Carlson on July 9, and he did a little excerpt about what's happening in Seattle, Washington, and they had an event. This is according to what that video article was. The city of Seattle brought in all the white workers for an event called Interrupting Internalized Racial Superiority and Whiteness. And what they wanted to deal with and basically get rid of out of the white folk is perfectionism, objectivity, individualism, comfort, guaranteed physical safety, control over people and over the land, relationships with other white people, and the certainty of your jobs. This was at the city level.
Closer to the heart.
It's so close to my heart, I can feel it beat.
You talked about the stock market, how it's so high, and there's a guy on YouTube, a young guy from California called Meet Kevin, and he advises people on real estate, on betting on Robinhood and all that. But he's not a stupid guy, and I listened to his video from late yesterday, and he said when you've got corporations being bailed out, the Fed buying all these bonds, they've let people go on furlough. They're making still a lot of money, so they're taking that money and probably buying stocks. You've got people who are not paying their mortgage right now. They've got forbearance, so they're saving $2,000-$3,000 a month maybe, and then they're getting all the checks and the stimulus. So basically, he's saying all these people they've got all this cash, and they're putting it in the stock market instead of leaving it in the bank. But and he could be right. That's why the stock market is up. But what about when things go back to normal? What about when all these programs run out? How are they going to start paying their mortgage if their job is gone by that time? So
you don't, and that's where I think that's what the destruction of civilization as we've known it is broken down into these phases I mentioned earlier of how the goal is to introduce all this stuff to divide us. And so between what Alan is talking about, all the financial analysts and stuff like that, to me, I'm a firm believer that all the financial markets have already been destroyed. It's literally, unless you know how to basically profit off of these activities, you're gambling. And so therefore there is no back to the norm because of what central banks are doing. Because we're just talking about here in the US, but what we're talking about applies to every single country on this planet. So this is an orchestrated global event where the new norm is, what is the new norm? So between now and November, I think is probably the most crucial time to really strategize and plan how to how to take care of your own as well as everything around you, because all this currency being created, you can have as much as you want, but if you can't go nowhere to spend it because the shelves are empty, and you can't have an abundance of supplies of resources and things that we need to live off of. So that when people realize that, game over with.
Well, what I like to say is there's a lot of people like gold and silver, precious and other precious metals, and I said my thing is, if you want to protect your precious metals, there's two precious metals you really need. Mm-hmm. Lead and steel. If you want to protect anything precious to you, you need two precious metals, lead and steel. And you know what I'm talking about.
That's a given.
I did. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. We're going to run into an issue that is going to be a supply chain breakdown on a local level. Mm-hmm. And that is when, because we've already had it on a global level. Now it's going to trickle into a national level, and it's eventually going to reach a local level where there's going to be a lot of money out there because they're going to keep mailing the checks. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be enough product out there to buy.
Right.
And that's whenever the gold, the silver, the cryptos, the run to assets, that's when they kick in. Like, I don't think we're going to reach a point where we don't have food, but I think we're going to reach a point where we don't have luxury, or what seem now to be luxury items out there of like laptops and like everything on Amazon.
Yep.
That's why I think it's such important news that friggin' PayPal is going to be offering cryptocurrencies within like 3 months, because they have there's like 800 million users of PayPal, and you're going to be able to purchase Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum on PayPal, and all that is a valve to try and relieve hyperinflation away from the real food commodities.
I think you're saying that the checks are going to keep coming, so that's not a problem. But I think it is, because the only way they can bring out these new checks is for the Treasury to borrow more and more trillions. And I'm not sure the market will take that. There's a limit to it, and faith and confidence could be lost. And you could have what happened in Lebanon. And I did a video today about Lebanon, and their banking system was like the jewel of the country. It's like a bit like the city of London, but of the Middle East. And it's just collapsed in the last 12 months.
Oh, wow.
And you look at the Lebanese pound against the dollar, it's fixed. So you think there isn't a problem, but the banks all collapsed. Even the central bank lost $50 billion. So central banks can lose money. And I think if people lose confidence in the currency, you might have goods and services out there, but no one's going to be able to access it because there's going to be no currency, no Federal Reserve note. I think that is a possibility.
I don't know about that, because although it may lose faith and confidence, what is the people's other option? Like, what would they run to shop with?
Barter. or they would go without. That's what's happening in Lebanon, and it's not a poor country. It used to be considered Switzerland of the Middle East before the troubles there in the 70s.
Absolutely. There you go. To the supply that Ben was talking about, not too long ago, a trucking group in the U.S. took a poll of its members, and the upshot was something like 73% who applied to the poll said they would not deliver to a city that defunded their police. So you want to talk about a shortage when you can't even get a trucker to bring stuff in to your city. Now you're looking at a shortfall, a lack of items, not because they don't exist. You can't get anyone to bring it in. The other regarding the national debt at now 26 plus trillion. Well, our national debt, to me, the U.S. national debt, and probably any other country, is a Ponzi scheme by definition. Mm-hmm. There's no for-profit operation that the U.S. government can use to pay off its debt. Ask Bernie Madoff what it is to run a $60 billion Ponzi. He's doing 150 years right now. Well, we've got a 26 trillion that is a Ponzi scheme. It can never be paid off from profit. And to the point, the Fed can keep through the market, the Fed can acquire some treasuries. Maybe some other countries will still buy, or some other companies. But eventually, if it hits the fan hard enough, the big holders of treasuries are going to go, I got to cash these in because our economies have tanked. we can't live on this investment. We need the funds now. Well, when too many people show up to the bread line, you run out of bread. And then the U.S. Treasury will have no other buyers of their treasuries. And some of the big groups that are going to get really pummeled, for example, pension plans, public and private, they were, way back in the beginning, it was you got to get AAA rated investments. That's treasuries. These pension plans are seriously underfunded, really badly. And that's without taking into account that their treasury investments might not be there.
I already consider them lost, just because if they're well beyond underfunded to where they can never be made up. The differences cannot be made up ever along the national debt, and it's denominated in the same currency that's about to go belly up. So I already consider it a loss. And it's unfortunate those who are anticipating or expecting to have a pension payout throughout their lifetime. Hopefully they can come to grips with the reality that that's not going to be something that's feasible. So now, between now and whatever time that there is some purchasing power remaining in the fiat note, is to get as much out of the system as you can, because tomorrow or your future is basically reassured is not guaranteed. So,
it's definitely not guaranteed.
The retirement concept in general, this decade will be very problematic in and of itself, because what's all those financial products denominated in? Federal Reserve note. So
there will be no retirement. And the other thing as well, it's not only Uncle Sam that is running a Ponzi scheme, but all the big corporations, the American people in general. There's a lot of debt. I think corporations, they're up to about at least 10 trillion in debt, American corporations. And you've got all the unfunded liabilities, 127 trillion. So that 21 trillion is just like the tip of the iceberg, I would say.
Actually, this goes back to 2012, and once you get into the hundreds of trillions, it's really doesn't matter. But there was a Boston economist, I think it's Lawrence Kotlikoff, 2012. He did a present value analysis of the unfunded liabilities, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. He did a present value analysis, 2012. His number was more than $200 trillion. 2012. Okay, at some point it is irrelevant to how much debt there is, except for the fact that there is more debt in our system, national, all the states, counties, cities, people, businesses, than there's money out there to satisfy it. We are technically bankrupt under the current monetary system. One of the things, and and as you guys know, this is what I try to educate on, speak on. We have to change the monetary system, because no matter what goes down, if you leave, because to me, the monetary system is the number one problem we have in this country. And yeah, we've talked about so many of them today, is the number one problem in the country, because everyone and everything is connected to, through, by, and with it. And it works against us every day. And the people who are in the position have the power, have the exposure to tell us this is wrong, that we are getting hijacked. They're not telling you anything. No. Oh, the Fed targets 2% inflation. Oh, inflation must be good. Oh, the federal government taxes us, even though it had decades and decades of never having a federal income tax. Oh, the Treasury owes 26 trillion. Oh, that's nothing. It's nothing. These three things, inflation, federal taxation, and national debt, are directly tied to this current monetary system. Each one is absolutely horrible. You put the three together, you have the trifecta of monetary system disaster. And it's accepted as normal. Okay, nothing to see, keep moving.
I think, though, what's happening now in the U.S. and maybe some other countries is a symptom of the end of this system, like all the social unrest, the division, the crisis that we have right now. And if you go back to like the French Revolution, and right after that in 1790, when they started issuing the assignats, all the paper money, and all the result of this crisis, more and more surveillance, authoritarianism. That's a symptom of the end of the fiat currency, and it always ends in tears. But hopefully, Americans will go back to their constitution, because their constitution provides for a really good monetary system. Only gold and silver, right?
Yeah.
So, actually, the gold and silver, Article 1, Section 10, is a clause for the states. Mm-hmm. It's to me, Article 1, Section 10, I call it the no state shall clause, because remember, it's representatives of the states that wrote the Constitution. Mm-hmm. And they're basically telling themselves, we, the states, can't do all of these things. One of the things that the states were not supposed to be able to issue, bills of credit. Now, I understand that term to mean debt. Which state has not issued bills of credit? They all have. They're all unconstitutional. And this is in part why the Constitution is being so attacked nowadays. It's old, it's out of date, it's not current, it's not hip, and it was written by a bunch of white privileged guys.
Well, so was the Bible.
So that makes it a lot easier in the next 2 or 3 years for that to be another mainstream subject matter that we have to address amongst all the change we're undertaking now, is the need to alter that to be it more modern, to fit the agendas and the biggest culture to heart.
Well, when someone has never read the Constitution, when they don't understand it, mm-hmm. or they want to go, and I've had this conversation with others about the difference between what does it really say and mean, or how are we going to interpret it today? Mm-hmm. Well, if you don't understand what the founders meant at that time, and because words have changed in definition, you have to understand what they said to understand what they meant. And if you haven't studied it, because, again, this is 1789, 1790. Okay, humans are imperfect by design. They did something that no country had ever done, ever. The fact that it isn't perfect by today's standards doesn't mean it has no value. It is the foundation in which we can make good, proper change. But, basically throwing the baby out with the bathwater, that's the CPS report.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a super chat.
Yeah, I wasn't touching on that now about
yeah, I think that's where we're going.
Mm-hmm.
See, I'm going to say one thing, then I have to actually jump off real quick.
Okay.
Me too.
I think that Trump is absorbing as much of the public
debt
and private debt into the Federal Reserve books, and then gonna just go after the Federal Reserve and actually reach a point where the legislators will delegitimize the Federal Reserve and basically have a jubilee of national debt and publicly held debt
denominated in Federal Reserve notes.
Yeah.
So watch this. So a question was, please discuss debt jubilee history and its potential to today. So in regards to what Ben was saying, I also think that, you run a Federal Reserve note and their image and their entire history into the ground, and then that will be considered a debt jubilee, because everything denominated in Federal Reserve notes, which is the world's economy, will then somehow be eradicated in a sense, and then you issue whatever else comes next. Hopefully it's something backed by actual resources of some kind, which I don't think will fly, but I think that's going to be the debt jubilee format used. So that's just my personal opinion.
Bye, Ben. Be safe.
Yeah, Ben. All right. Anybody else want to share some thoughts on that little debt jubilee process before we let go?
Well, sorry, go ahead, Alan.
No, you go.
Well, hopefully, maybe we'll just adopt a free market system where people, because if you look at the Austrian School of Economics, the way they explain how money came about, or was that we started out exchanging things, bartering things, and then we found that it was hard to barter. The bigger society grew, so we specialized, and we found that there were some commodities that were most marketable, which became money that everyone wanted. So it would be great if we could go back to basics and not have. Why do we need people we don't trust issuing currency?
Right.
Why can't we just use pieces of gold and silver, or even cryptocurrencies, or seashells, or whatever we want as something, a value, something that helps us exchange indirectly? I mean, that would be ideal, but people have been so brainwashed into thinking that governments have to run the money, right? But that's
a lot of people historically don't realize that there was always, prior to the early 70s, we had gold, or we had actual U.S. Treasury notes, we had Federal Reserve notes, we had gold, silver coins, we had 100 years ago we had the individual bank notes. So there was competition out there, and people had choice to choose what they wanted to use as legal tender, or tender to each other in the form of payment and whatnot. So it will be good to get back to those type of things, I think.
Okay.
Alan, any last thoughts?
Yes, sir. People talk about the debt jubilee. Mm-hmm. Well, it sounds good until you find out you are actually the holder of the debt and you're about not to get paid. Okay, that's when it bites.
Right.
There is a way of, but back to the thing about money. Money, people gazillion years ago, straight up barter. They figured out it's slow, it's inconvenient, it doesn't work very well, and it's really hard to do it over great distances. People, not banks, not governments, came up, developed, matured the idea of money. Money has, I've got a list of 12 different characteristics. Money has one function: function is more important than characteristic. The one function is it facilitates, it makes happen an indirect transaction. If the transaction goes down, that is, the seller sells, the buyer buys, they both walk away peacefully and happily, you just use money. It's sound, it's good, it's valid, and it doesn't matter what it is. And why would the seller take it? The seller would take it because the seller can turn around and become a buyer with it within that society. Mm-hmm. When we focus on function and not the characteristics, it changes what money can be. But to the point, people created this. Who does the concept of money belong to? People. Who needs to be the sole creator of money within, let's say, a country? The government? No. Banks? No. The people must control the creation, extinguishment of money in their society, because with that, in a unified way, the supply can be controlled so we don't have inflation. You can fund a federal government so it does not tax us. I know, whoa, heresy. And because it gets all of its funding from the people, let's say based on approved budgets, there'll be no debt. It's not what money is per se. Who controls the creation? Who controls the supply? Who controls the extinguishment of money? When that is done by and for the benefit of the people, we don't have any of these problems. And now we, the people, hold the short leash attached to the tight collar that's wrapped around our government's throats. They don't tell us how much they're going to spend. We tell them how much they're going to spend. And if they won't tell us what's in the budget, fine. No funding. Well, talk to us when we care. So debt jubilee to a degree would be great on certain things. And to get the debt jubilee at the national level, you have to get rid of the Federal Reserve System and the bank's sole ability to create money in our country. Take that away from the banks, other than that, leave banks alone. Now we're on the way. Now we can get done and get rid of inflation, federal taxation, and national debt.
Yeah, that's the goal, man. In the meantime, we got to create our own monetary standard individually, because they're going to continue to do more of what they do until they can't anymore. So it's up to us to protect ourselves as best as we can and to help others do the same. So, gentlemen, as always, it's great to connect. We got Manico64 on YouTube. We got fed.ed.
US. FedEd, FEDED.US.
All right, so go check them out. And other than that, gentlemen, looking forward to connecting again. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And
thank you.
Yeah, just keep moving, man. I appreciate you guys joining us. And for those watching, enjoy the rest of your day and weekend as well. See you guys later.
Be safe and well.